All right. So this morning is kind of a family morning. Well, every Sunday morning is a family morning. But this morning in particular, a couple of things is it okay if we just don't do church like we're supposed to all the time? Is that okay? Because, honestly, I have a hard time with that. Because, you're a pastor and you think, okay, people expect certain things, and so you got to do certain things. And we're kind of going outside of the box a little today. So, I mentioned my friend. I just want to tell you about him a little bit, and then Ed wants to share something. He just came up, and I think we're going to do something as a family. I have a very, he's become an extremely dear friend of mine. His name is David, David Barton. David began to come here in April. Danny and Guy. They met him someplace and invited him to church. David, I'm really uncomfortable with calling people homeless. I find that every time I say that, it's kind of an uncomfortable thing. But David didn't have a place to call home, and is out on the streets and had struggled for many years with heroin. And April, he came, and the Lord began to just move in him because of you guys, by the way. He and I went out for lunch shortly after that, like a second or third time, and we just really connected. And so he's not been able to be here for a while because he then was able to go get a job, and he was just, it was like his whole life, it's changed. He began to go in this direction that God was just moving in him, and I believe wanted to move through him and wants to move through him. And so recently, what happened is he was at work, and long story short, went to the hospital, found out he has mesothelioma, which they say is not curable. I was with him yesterday for a couple of hours, and he said, I really wish I could come to church, and just began to cry. Because he just loves you guys so much, and you've had such an impact on his life. So a couple things we're going to do. First, I'm going to have Ed come up and share, and I think that this is from God. The timing seems to be the kind of thing he would do. So Ed's going to share something really quick.
Yesterday we were in the car and listening to the Fish, and I don't know if it's 95.9, but they've been given testimonies along with their Christmas celebration. And one of the testimonies yesterday was about a young man that had mesothelioma, and he was part of a church body, and that church body prayed for him every single day. And within about 90 days, the mesothelioma shriveled up, and the Lord completely healed him. Thank you, Jesus. I ask everybody for this month, let's make this a prayer for David month, and ask the Lord to touch his body. Can we do that?
Yes, amen. Thank you, Lord.
So Lord, you know his place, you know his state. You see him right now, Lord, and I don't know what miraculous thing you're going to do in his life. But I just pray, Lord, that even through this service today, Lord, we're just saying reach out and trust you, to rely on you, that you're the God of our salvation, and you're the God that brings us healing. And I just pray this morning, Lord, and each and every day that you strengthen him, that, Father, you shrink all of this cancer or whatever this is called on his lungs. And that, Lord, that whatever you do, just be a miraculous testimony to your glory. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Now we're going to do something that we never do in church. Okay, but I want to give David a gift, and that gift is you guys. But he hasn't got to come and see you, so I want to get everybody together and take a picture, and we're going to put it by his bed so he knows that we're all saying hello, we love you, and we're praying for you. So everybody's got a scrunch. And Kelly says we should do a video and say something. Dan says.
Hey, Papa Don, just gonna stand in front of the camera.
I don't think the angle's that way.
Stand like right in front of it.
Pretend it's like a selfie.
Right. Come on, everybody. Look at all these people.
Can we turn the house lights up? No. Oh, there you are. All right, 1, 2, 74, 3. Hi. Maybe you guys want to say something?
Oh, it's a video.
Hi, y'all.
All right.
All right, pictures in.
All right. You guys are awesome. Try doing that in the church of 10,000, okay?
That's a
They got
different story
nothing on
altogether.
All right. All right. So now back to our normal, regular service. Anyway, Carl, come on up. Oh, there's one more thing. There are some cards going around. There are some cards going around that we'd like you to sign there for David Parker, who is doing much better, and and Carl will fill you in on that as well. So Lord, thanks for Carl. I thank you for his heart. Lord, I just thank you for him and what a gift he is. And I pray, God, that this morning it just looks like you're doing all kinds of fun stuff, and we continue now in our worship. I pray that you would bless those that Carl has speak, and Carl himself, and that we would be blessed by hearing your words. Amen.
Amen.
Cool. I'm not walking real good today. There are days that are really good, and there are days that aren't. And this is one that's not. So I'm gonna sit. It doesn't go quite down as far as it does with you, Don, but I just kind of noticed that. Let me tell you about David. David was able to preach at his church last week, David Parker, and it was awesome. It was on gratitude. It was a different message than he preached here, but man, it was powerful. And I was with him in the back room before, and he didn't know if he could go out there. He was so weak, but he got up there, and man, it just was spectacular. And I'll post it online so you can watch it. It's really good. The report is that this experimental treatment has had an effect and has kept the growth from increasing. It has not shrunk, but it hasn't increased at all. And this has been months. And he's not scheduled now for treatment until January. So he's been going weekly, and it's been really kicking his butt. But he was great. We went out afterwards, and he was doing really, really good. And I think I thought you guys would be blessed to know that, hear that. As you know, we send people out from time to time. And last month, we sent Patti Helzer out and to Ethiopia. And I thought, well, we can't send her out and not have receive her back and get a report. So she's got to come and give us a report. I'll stay right here.
Oh, I have to behave myself then.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I have one pair of shoes on, like I'm not wearing the boot. I have two full boots on. I know. It's pretty cool. So go ahead and post the first picture.
So good.
I want to thank you all for, this seems loud. I want to thank you all for your prayers and support. I really, really felt them. And one of the things that's pretty amazing is to have an incredible team that I travel with, and I'll share more of that in a minute. Africa is a land of beauty and mystery, pain and joy. And Ethiopia is a land that is actually rising out of the ashes. From the time that I first went there to now, what we're seeing in the breakthrough that we're seeing is pretty phenomenal. This past year was my 8th year, and the oppression against the women is ingrained in its culture and its traditions, and it's heartbreaking. When I began my work there, I saw a really powerful religious spirit, and I asked that Lord what it was, and he said it was over the women, to oppress them and keep them from what he's called them to do. Everybody's looking that way. But what I knew, though, is that I wasn't to go after that spirit, but I was to bring God's love, his hope, his truth, and his faithfulness there. It was his job to take care of it. But during the last 8 years, there's been times when it's been really, really difficult. It's been really hard, and we wondered, can we keep doing this? We even had, some of the men there and leaders there that came against us. And it was sad, and it was hard, but we knew that God called us to do that. But honestly, when you can look in the eyes of a woman and you can carry your tears and you can hear their pain and you can pray for them and lift them up, and Caitlin, you know all about this, and the women of Uganda, when you can dance with them, when you can share with them, that fuels your fire and you continue.
Come on.
One of the things that I love to do when I'm there is it's the only time the house is quiet is I wake up about 4:30 in the morning and I worship. And I read the word. And I asked Aaron to sing, Lord, You Are Beautiful, because that is one of my pivotal songs of my life. The first time I heard that song was by Keith Green, and I wept because I encountered God's love so powerfully. Didn't you feel it today? It was amazing. Thank you, Aaron. That was a gift. I washed all my makeup off. Thank you. But what was interesting is one morning I posted on my Facebook wall, it was early, the giant, because I knew what lay before me, what God called me to do on this trip, that it was probably one of the most intense encounters that I would have and messages I would bring to the church and to the men's conference and so forth. And I was just like, God, this giant before me is huge. And I posted this on the wall. The giant in front of you is never bigger than the God who lives in you.
Come on.
And then the Lord led me to Psalm 144, 1-2. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. My loving kindness and my fortress, my high tower and my deliverer, my shield and the one whom I take refuge. And that's a powerful scripture, and there's a theme in that there is a battle, but the battle is not ours. The battle is God's, and he's the one that's going to take it on. He's the one that's going to subdue our enemies. We just have to get in his presence, to ascend to where God's called us to be, to rest in the truth of who he is. Amen? So I know that God's called me to be a forerunner voice in the lives of those whom I intersect. And I'm to just speak clearly his word into the desolate, chaotic places in the lives of people. And let his hope be released and the vision released for their future. And one thing that's been really powerful is we've had a handful of men that did catch the vision, who understood, who wanted freedom for their daughters. They would sit at the back of the sanctuary and they kept saying to us, we want you to do a men's conference. Pointing to me, and which is pretty amazing, that they would have that. Well, last year we did our first conference and we were invited back. When you're invited back, it's a good thing. So, but what was interesting is when Julie and I prayed, the theme Stronger Together, it really stood out to us. And we're like, that's it. That's going to be the theme of all we do this time, Stronger Together. What we did not know is the new Prime Minister, Abe, who's a spirit-filled believer, that was the theme that he set for his country this year. Stronger Together. We had no idea. So I think God's doing something, right? And then there was the first, excuse me, my throat's giving me trouble. There was the first woman president elected in Ethiopia this year. That's incredible. She's the second woman president in all of Africa. And then the Prime Minister Abe got rid of half of his cabinet and replaced them with women. Okay, so when we started our work, it all looked impossible, but God is up to something in Ethiopia. He's releasing women. So you can go to the next slide. That's our team, Jim and Arlene Paris. They're really amazing people. They were missionaries in South Africa for 25 years, and they've been traveling with us here in Ethiopia for about 4 or 5 years, incredible couple. You can go to the next one. Thank you. There's Julie and I in our boot. And this is a fancy hotel called the Grand Spa Hotel, and I really wanted one of those chairs, right, Marianne? They're pretty cute. But the team, you can't have a good mission trip if you don't have a good team. And we served along each other, we believed in each other, and we supported each other. So let's go to slide 2-1. Hey, this is working. Thank you, Cecile. Okay, so here's our little banner. But I have to tell you, I've never been more nervous about bringing a message into a men's conference in my life. Of course, it's only the second time I spoke to men. But honestly, it would be, I'm not going to say it. But anyway, so delivering a message, I can't go there. Anyway, delivering the message to these men who really thought the opposite of women, I was nervous about it. And I was like, oh God, what are you having me do? But he really called me to do that. To release, and so you can go on to the next slide, to release the women. Here's during our worship, I love that young man. And just continue to go through the slides until you get to number 6. That women are called to either connecto. That women are called to come alongside of men. That women are not called to be a helpmeet, but to come alongside of men and be a helper, to take the kingdom together. And this is, one of the things I challenge the men with is, are you trusting in the authority of tradition, or are you going to trust in the authority of the biblical Word of God? Come on. And so, right sitting in front of me was Pastor Desalu, who's there's not a picture of him, but he is a fellowship leader over a dozen churches in Bahadar, Ethiopia. So he's looking at me, kind of like when you preach and Don's looking at you. You can't read them? Carl, you pointed that out to me. David, right? Okay, Dave, come on. You back me up on this. Anyway, you don't know if they're receiving it. And so and he's like this close. And I don't know if he's receiving this message or not, but God just came and I delivered the message and challenged the men to protect their daughters, to stand with their daughters, to support their daughters and their women and the wife and their students, and to be a voice to protect them in the city of Bahadar, that God is calling them and challenging them to be a voice to have the women be risen up. And we also talked about the prime minister and the new president. So Julie, and then I gave of course, the biblical references and why and stuff. I did good. I did that. So you got to back it up, right? Anyway, so Julie, she said, I want 5 men to come up and share what they received because this is new language. This is new information. One after one, they came up. And one of the men said this. He said, if you downgrade women, you are agreeing with Satan.
Come on. Yeah. So good.
So then Pastor Desalu said this, and this was the best part. Since the beginning of Ethiopia, women have always been used as servants and nothing more. And now in politics, women are being raised up. A new women president and half the cabinet replaced with women. Yet, the church is not following this. They are not allowing women to have roles in the life of the church other than a servant. We must change this. It cannot be like this anymore. It's not biblical. You see, once there was a broken little girl standing before a room full of foreign men, using her voice and standing up for women and saying, men, rise up together. Because see, if you leave half the women out, that's half the church. I can continue, but I won't. Okay, so we're going to go just through slides 3, 1 through 4. I had the honor of preaching at Kalihuat Church. I think it was my 4th time preaching there. Sorry, my throat. Yeah, that would be good. Thank you. This is Pastor Atrasa. He is a church plant of the first vineyard in northern Ethiopia, Bahadar Vineyard. Isn't that amazing? So I have to tell you though, is when I got up to share my message, I lost it and I started crying. I literally just fell to pieces because never in my wildest dreams did I think that time when I first came to Christ at Anaheim Vineyard in 85, that I'd be giving and sharing a message and speaking and teaching in a vineyard in Bahadar, Ethiopia. And so I cried like a baby, and then I kind of pulled myself together. And I shared about the roots of the Vineyard, about my own journey with the Vineyard, and then I taught them on prayer ministry and deliverance ministry, which is completely different than what they do there. They kind of shake, scream, and slap demons out of people. And You'd be a good one, but anyway, and so, really just treating people with dignity and honor and respect, and they were so hungry. Yeah. They were so hungry. They were just, it was so amazing. And then I had them practice on each other, but one of the things I taught them is before you pray, listen. Because so many times we'll pray for people and we're presumptive, we know what they need, but we don't listen to what he says. And so they all got in their little groups to pray, and then immediately they're like, and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, whoa, stop. And they look at me, and I'm like, you gotta listen. And so they did, and it was so sweet. And I go, I don't want any shouting, I don't want loud voices, I want just a tenderness of the Lord to minister to one another, and it was beautiful. And then I anointed and prayed for every single person, and the pastor is standing next to me going, wow, yeah, that's it. I was like, oh my God. It was amazing, but what an honor to be a part of Bahadar Vineyard in Ethiopia. You can go to the last slides. There are brothers and sisters. Pray for them, because right across the street, we're talking the alley, is a mosque. And so they are in the midst of some hard land. That's Jerry and Bamlaku and Medhani. The two guys are our translators. I've known them for the last 8 years. Medhani, that one sitting next to me, we almost lost him recently to drugs and all kinds of crazy things, but I wouldn't let go of him. And he showed up again, and he's in a restoration ministry, and he's doing so good. He's an incredible young man. And so when he walked into the house, I cried. Never give up on people. Never give up on anybody, because just fight for them in prayer, because you never know what God's going to do in restoring their life. And so, aren't they beautiful? Anyway, so thank you. That's Arlene. I just adore her. God is amazing. He's done incredible things. Thank you for your prayer support. What is God calling you to do?
Come on.
What is the one place? There's Bahadar way up there at the little lake. What has he called you to do? Locally, internationally, whatever. Just go out and do it and be Jesus to people, and don't give up. Share what he has for them. And let's take the kingdom. Amen.
Amen. In the Western world, we have the luxury of thinking about everything too much, writing books and writing papers on different positions. I could give you notes for whether women should be ministers or not, and very intelligent, very godly, very knowledgeable people write them, and then they're very godly, very knowledgeable, godly people that write the opposite. And there was a commentator that I came to know when I was younger, much younger, about 20 years ago, named F.F. Bruce.
Right.
F.F. Bruce was in the 40s and was a very conservative, evangelical guy. And he asked the most stunning and relevant question. He said, why would God give women gifts and anoint them and not expect to use them? I thought, that pretty much sells it for me. If you're gifted and anointed and called and sent by God, it doesn't matter whether you're Jew or Greek or slave or freeman, you're called by God. But the big point is, are you going to obey?
Yeah.
Are you going to obey? Oh gosh. I'm going to go ahead and start with a little teaser for a series of messages I'm going to give over the next few weeks. I'm going to look at the book of Jonah and talk about somebody called by God and his response to it. It parallels very much the prodigal son the older son and the younger son, and their motivations and whatnot. And it's really, really interesting. If you read the prodigal son, it ends with the older brother being really ticked off at his father. And it ends there. Just ends there. You're left to figure it out yourself. Well, Jonah, goes through all this stuff, and in the end is really, really ticked at God, and it kind of ends there. So it's not all that encouraging at times. But the first 3 verses, I just want to take a look at those for a minute. It says, the word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. And think about it, the word of the Lord came to Jonah. How? Did an angel speak to him? Did he hear the audible voice of God? How did it happen? We don't know, but we know they heard directly from God.
So good.
Which makes the rest of it very contradictory. Because he said, go to the great city of Nineveh and preach. That's like, I tried to think of an example of today, whether it's Iraq or some other vicious country. The only thing I could think about was there's a motorcycle gang called the Mongols. They're very, very, very vicious and very, very cruel, and they do very, very nasty things to people. And these people in this great city of Nineveh were horrible. They skinned people alive. They made people carry the heads of their loved ones around on poles. They cut off their legs and one arm and buried them up so that they could come by and shake their hand. And they were vicious, just vicious. And yet God says, go to that great city of Nineveh, which ought to give us a clue that God doesn't see things the way we see things. I mean, we see things, we see certain actions, certain behavior, and we disqualify. And we feel like they don't deserve to hear the word of the Lord. And that's exactly what Jonah thought. It said that this is Jonah's reaction to the word. He said, go and preach against it because its wickedness has come up before me. And Jonah ran away from the Lord. Talk about stupid. And headed for Tarshish. And he went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. And after paying the fare, he went aboard to sail for Tarshish to flee from the Lord.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, and I can guarantee you this: anytime you get a call from God, anytime you get instruction from God, there'll always be a ship waiting to take you in the opposite direction.
Wow.
Always. You know, I was thinking about John, 1 Corinthians 10:13. There's no temptation given you, but such is common to man. But with the temptation, God also will make a way out that he might be able to bear it. Well, the devil does just the opposite. When the God calls you to something, he provides a way out.
Yeah.
So you can be disobedient to God and try to do whatever you think you're going to do. I felt called. It's really a weird thing to feel called. There's several billion people in this world, and to think that I'm an individual that's called by God to do something seems ridiculous. And I felt that way many times. But in 1983, there was a little lady in our church, a little intercessor lady, which are dangerous little ladies. And she told me one time, she goes, I need to talk to you. I wanted to say what I thought. I said, H-E double toothpicks, you don't. If you can figure that one out. I said I stayed away from her for weeks and weeks. At church, the church was big enough where I literally sometimes got off the stage, I went underneath the bleachers and walked out that way so I'd not run into her. And so one day, I ran into her. She creeped me, she stalked me. And so one day, I was talking to a friend of mine, I turned around, there she is. And there she is with her little arthritic finger pointing at me. And she had a little torn off piece of paper in this hand, she's shaking, and she goes, "I need to tell you this." And I thought, no, you really don't. But I couldn't get away. So she said, "You've been playing games with God, and you know what He's called you to do. And if you don't do it, He's going to remove your lampstand," which represents your ministry.
Wow, yeah.
And I didn't really respond very well at the moment. But I took the word, and I still have the word. I still have torn, the little piece of paper is torn in a frame in my office, because it was the word of the Lord to me. And it wasn't 3 months later, and I had left Anaheim, was up in the Central Coast planting a church. I disqualified myself, but yet He qualified me, and he said, "Well, tag, you're it." And I'm like, there's a lot of other people you can tag that are a lot better than me, and but He didn't seem to think that was an issue, and so He called me, and I tried to resist, and he finally had His way, and actually He's been working that thing in me for years and years and years, to the point now. My mentor, John Wimber, used to say, "I want to grow up before I grow old." And I have the same saying now. And I realized the other day when I got my Medicare card, I've grown old. And I still haven't really grown up. But I'm working on it. I'm working on, taking His call seriously and doing what He's called me to do. And very seriously. And I still don't take myself that seriously, but I take His call very, very seriously. Because I've learned, like Jonah, where can I flee from His presence? Where can I go? If I make my bed in hell, He's there. If I ascend to heaven, He's there. Wherever I go, He's there. And I can't avoid it. And you actually you kind of just get wore down. And you finally go, "Okay, I give. And He says, "Yeah, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen the whole time." And so I think Jonah is a good picture of that here. He's called by God directly. And how many of you have heard the voice of the Lord and have said no? That's kind of just the opposite of Lord, isn't it?
Yeah.
How can you say no, Lord? He's not your Lord if you can say no.
Wow.
Let that sink in. You really don't have an option. You don't have a choice in the matter. He has decided. He has called you. He has appointed you. He's assigned you. And you're just meant to show up and suit up and empty head and on time, as Bob Jones used to say. But you have to realize when you get called and you are intimidated. I mean, obviously, if you're Jonah, first of all, Jonah was the only prophet that was sent to a pagan city.
Right.
Isaiah talked to us a little bit, and so did Jeremiah. But he's the only prophet of God that was called to a very, very pagan, hideous city that God called that great city, Nineveh.
Wow.
You know why he didn't want to go? Venture a guess.
They might repent.
That's right. He read the book. He knew what God was like.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that later, but I'm just kind of just glossing over the beginning of it here. But he knew what God was like, and he knew that if they repented, he'd forgive them, and he'd pour out his mercy and his grace on them. And he didn't want that. He didn't want them to repent. And I'm afraid that there may be a little bit of Jonah in each one of us. And there's definitely is a collective bit of Jonah in all of us if we pull the church together. We're the first people to get on the newspaper when there's a big disaster and say, that's Katrina happened because God's judging those people. That's not prophetic. It's actually pathetic. It gives people a view of the church that we're like gleeful that these people are being punished. And we never can be gleeful when others are punished because we deserve the same punishment and we've been pardoned. And so we can't be gleeful about it. We can't allow ourselves. There's a proverb that says, don't allow yourself to gloat when your enemy is in trouble, because God may relent. God may lift his hand. God, in other words, God will be God. He'll take care of things. He'll settle accounts. And it's not your job. It's not my job. Right. Our job is to be Christ-like to people, which means we're loving. Doesn't mean God sent Jonah to the city because their sin was great, and they were going to be in trouble for their sin. So you don't get away, you don't get free pass when you sin. You do pay the consequence. Galatians says, don't be fooled. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. And you can come up and take communion and ask for forgiveness every single week. But you run a red light down here and you run into some people, you're going to pay the price for that. There are natural laws that are in place, and they're called pleasant boundaries. God has given us pleasant boundaries. He's given us things that will stop us from doing what we would do left to ourselves. Have you ever wanted? Well, the way I've experienced this is at movies. Have you ever been to a movie and somebody's getting what they deserve, and you are so gleeful and cheering, and you're so glad that they're getting beat up or getting shot up or whatever? And I find myself having to quiet my spirit when that happens and not allow myself to rejoice at somebody else getting what they deserve. Because I'm going to tell you right now before the Lord, I do not want to get what I deserve. I do not want to get what I deserve. And I won't because of Jesus. But I will in this lifetime, if I sin against you or I sin against others, I will pay the price in this time, in this lifetime. Now, in eternity, I'll be forgiven. But we don't get away with anything. We really don't. Because God's always watching. God's always speaking to us. God's always whispering to us. And he's always trying to position us in a right relationship with him. And so Jonah here finds a ship going exactly in the opposite direction of Nineveh. And he thinks, you know what, later in the thing, we find out that he climbs down inside the boat and goes to sleep. What's one of the biggest tools that's used to fight depression? And to sleep. And to deny the reality of what's going on. You just want to sleep. I know that I want to go to sleep. I've, over the last few months, been going through some very difficult things in life, and I know that you do too. And they're I can't escape them. I cannot escape them. Sleep will not make them go away. Doing drugs will not make them go away. Activity will not let them go away, because when I'm alert, I'm totally aware of what's going on. And you know what I have to do? I have to do this. Psalm 16, keep me safe, my God, for in you I take refuge. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. Apart from you, I have no good thing. I say of the holy people who are in the land, they are noble, and in whom they are noble ones in whom you delight. Those who run after other gods will suffer more and more. Lord, you alone are my portion and my cup. In you alone I find my security. I have circumstances, you have circumstances in your life you can't control. Can't do one darn thing about it, except for trust God. Or deny it, pretend it's not happening, and that doesn't do any good. So God is our refuge, our strength in a time of trouble and despair and difficulty. We have no choice but to turn to the Lord. And Jonah knows that God is a God of mercy and forgiveness. So he doesn't want to go to Nineveh. He doesn't want to preach the word of the Lord. We'll look at that later. But for now, just know that, read Jonah and know that there's two reactions to him. There's one of him running from God, and then the other one is doing what God tells him to do and resenting it.
Right.
Kind of like the prodigal's older son, the prodigal. He served the father, and he slaved. It says he slaved for you, but he was a son, not a slave.
Come on.
He had the wrong mindset,
That's right.
and so we have to realize that he's our father, and he wants what's best for us, and even when it doesn't make sense, because did you think it made sense to Jonah to go to Nineveh, of all places? Do you think that was a city that was prepared for revival?
Yeah.
No. But God sent him there. So sometimes God sends us places that make no sense to us, and we try to figure it out, and we get it wrong. And he gets right every time. So really, might as well learn to just say yes, Lord, instead of no, Lord. Aaron, come here, buddy. This is my friend, Aaron, who I'm going to talk to for a minute.
Oh, we're going to talk.
Yeah, you didn't know that. Yeah, but this is one of those days where you don't know what they're doing.
It's every day for me.
I met Aaron 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
You're gonna make me cry, I feel like it.
Good.
Oh my gosh. Yep, about 8 or 9.
Yeah, and we were, I was at a church in Thousand Palms, and we were doing a fundraiser and a food drive for a mission out there. And a friend of mine was a pastor of a church called Antioch, and he brought Aaron with him to sing some songs and lead some worship, and there were several other people that played. And when Aaron started playing, I thought, oh my gosh, where did this guy come from? And he was just so passionate, so full of joy, so full of life, so authentic and so real. And when I see people like that, I'm very attracted to them. I proselytize them from other people's churches. That's how we met the guys from Santa Ana here, the face painting, faces of Santa Ana. I was at Anaheim, and they shared, and I thought, oh my God, I got to get to know these guys. So I got them in the hallway, and I got their numbers, and I've been getting together with them. Now they're doing stuff with us, and I'm like, we don't have enough to do that, but they do, so we'll borrow them. So anyway, I told Aaron at that time, I don't know if you remember this, I told him at that time that we're going to do some stuff together. And what do you think?
What did I think?
Yeah, tell the truth.
I thought he was full of crap. That's just my experience with church leaders. And I being one, so yeah.
And he didn't say that to me.
No.
But
You asked me what I thought, though.
But it did make it known that I could tell that he didn't believe me.
Wow.
But I think it was, you notice I've gotten rid of the headset. I don't wear the headset. The reason is, if I start making animal sounds, like, so I can but I just knew. I knew there was something there, and I didn't know how to do it or when we'd do it, but it just started happening over time. We stayed connected ever since, and sometimes for months we wouldn't talk, and sometimes maybe a whole year went by, but he's always been on my radar, and always felt like a fellowship with him, and a kinship with him.
Wow.
And so when it became evident that he was available to be with us, and then the way you responded to him, I mean, the first time he led worship, I told you, I about died. Because he goes, wow. Wow. And I'm sitting there going, oh, wow. What have I done? And then all of a sudden he goes, say it with me. Wow. And you said it with him. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? All nuts. And then he goes into a song, and everybody got so into it and was so connected. And I feel like we've connected with Aaron.
Yes.
And I feel like he's connected with us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. But I know that your life isn't a piece of cake either. You're going through really hard times, but you're faithful, and you're finding your refuge in God, and that's a model to us. That's what we all need to do. We need to find our refuge in God. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of different options, but the only one that brings real relief is finding our refuge in God. Add anything?
I'm just really thankful that I get to be a part of this community.
Come on.
I think I've been a part of churches that have gone through church splits my whole life. And I've seen the worst of church, and I've seen the best. And what you guys have here is actually really rare and unique. And it actually gives me faith because I've gone through the ringer. And I actually don't know any church that's like you. And I toured churches all over Southern California doing worship. But you guys have been through the ringer. You've tasted the wine of the Spirit, and you've also tasted the crushing. And that you're still here says a ton about you. And so many of you are so different from each other.
Yeah.
And
That's a good word.
and I've just come in week after week and month after month and been challenged by you to hope. And I still believe that the hearts of the fathers can return to the sons,
Yes.
and the sons can return to their fathers. I think Carl believing in me, and he knows me. Like, he actually knows everything, the good and the really ugly. And that he would let me even be on a platform to declare God's glory That's the heart of a father, because he doesn't see me as I am. He sees me as I will be.
That's so good.
And I'm not perfect, and I'll sign up for that. But I want to see people in this community as we worship together, is how we see each other in Christ. Because I believe as we continue in this group, this is really good soil. And we will see regions transformed no matter where we go. Whether it's in this city or another city, whether it's in this building or another building, I believe we have all the ingredients here by the power of the Spirit, by your own faith, that you demonstrate every single time we come into worship. I mean, it's powerful. It's powerful not because I'm a good worship leader. It's powerful because of your faith. When you hear the call, you always answer it. This community always answers it.
That's so good.
Let's just be honest. You're mostly old.
So offensive.
I know. I felt like we needed to break the ice and just say that right away. But the reason why this church is going to advance the kingdom, I believe, is because we have the fathers.
Wow.
I've been waiting for the fathers for so many years. I've been hungry for the mothers, the fathers. This generation has been longing, and it hasn't been answered yet. I haven't seen it in any group of people in the body of Christ. Not anywhere in Southern California. I believe what God is about to do in this house has to do with the hearts of the fathers and the mothers returning to the sons and the daughters. And I believe God's about to give this church sons and daughters.
Come on.
Because you've been faithful mothers and fathers. You've been faithful in the secret place. You have what they need. But I feel like the Father's saying, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you going to hear the call of Jonah to go to them? Because they're not going to be pretty. They're going to be a little bit like a loose cannon, like me sometimes.
That's good.
And they're going to disturb the comforted. And they're going to comfort the disturbed. And I just feel like what God's given me with Carl, and he calls me every week, and I still don't get why.
I'll borrow some money pretty soon.
What do you say?
Nobody asked him to choose me. Who are you choosing? I mean, who are you choosing? I've got speaking right now. Who are you choosing? And it doesn't look perfect, because this guy, he's not perfect. And you know why I like that? I can trust him as a father because he isn't perfect. Yep. If he came to me stouting out all these...
They didn't know that.
They don't know that? I am so tired of Christians standing up on pulpits and platforms acting like they have it all together when their whole life's a shambles on the inside. And I'm telling you, your vulnerability and your honesty and the beauty of your sincere relationship and trust with the Father is going to provoke people, young ones, to want to live. And they're going to say, I have a blueprint to work from. See, I don't have it all figured out, and I know I can't get it figured out. Honestly, I gave up on church ministry when I met him. I showed up because Brad is so persistent. This guy, he's the most persistent guy I know. And he said, will you come out? And I said, no. He says, will you come out if I do this? And I said, no. Well, what if we did this, this, and this? And honestly, he just kept putting money in front of me. And this wasn't Carl, this was a guy named Brad. And I showed up, because I needed money, because I needed to provide for my family, because for years the church ripped my family to pieces by not providing for our family. And God called me when I was 9 years old to be a worship pastor. And until I was 26, 28 years old, I had never been paid for what God had been giving me. I had not been supported by the church. And I was gifted, and I was anointed, and I was young, a loose cannon. But there was no honor system. But when Carl started coming in my life and honoring me, he is the first person to ever honor me with Brad. And I started to believe that maybe God could use me in the church. Maybe God would provide for my call. And maybe I could influence culture. In my music today, a woman just came to me in my gallery the other day. She said, I would have given up on my marriage and committed adultery on my husband this month, but I've been listening to your music day in and day out for 3 weeks straight, and it saved my marriage.
Wow.
And it's those kind of things when you go, okay, I say it with the partnership of my Abba. This stuff healed my relationship with my partnership with my Abba. I wanted to just go work at Home Depot and just be a good provider for my family. But now I get to punch Satan in the jaw. And so, yeah, I have a lot to say, and I can keep talking because I'm a loose cannon.
Well, just make sure that gets to be part of my message.
Yeah.
And we're good.
Yeah.
Let's worship some more.
That's right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
We're not going to tell you to get out because the other church isn't here today. So we're going to just worship. We love them, but we love that they're gone. Come on! Don't record that.
Too late.
It's a good day.
You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that years old. Can you hear the bones of Nineveh rattling in the supermarkets? Oh, can you hear the bones of Nineveh rattling at a homeless dinner? Can you hear the bones of Nineveh? Can you hear the bones, bones, bones? It's an army rising. It's the rattling, rattling, radical army of the living God. Can you hear the sound? Hear the sound. Hear the sound of love. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. It's your breath. We pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only.
Yes. You know, I know there are some of you that are going through difficult things and facing trials and difficulties. So I want you to come forward and we'll pray. And come forward as a matter of act of faith, saying, I'm going to take my refuge in you. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. But I know this, I'm going to trust you, God. So if you're in that place, you want to get some prayer, I need some. So I'll come forward too. So come over to this place and we'll pray for you.
So good.
And by the way, it's not Don's birthday today, but it is in 3 days. And it would really break his heart if he didn't get, 2 days, 2 days. Oh, so sorry. Yeah, it's going to break his heart if you don't. Everybody needs to give him a $20 bill.
Why only 20?
Sorry.
Just come, come. If you feel like half of yourself, if you even feel like a quarter of yourself, just come. We will not leave this place the same. Peace, bring it all to peace. Storm surrounding me, let it rain. At your name, still call the sea to still, raise your me to still every wave. At your name, bring it all to peace. Storms surrounding me, let it rain. At your name, still call the sea to still, raise your me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble.
I will praise
Jehovah God, we call upon you right now.
all these boys to me, all these loves to see once again. I will praise in Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus.
From the bringing of the final, that you would correct us, though.
You
And God, that
make
you
the
would straighten it out.
darkness tremble,
And more that you would stop the inflammation. That you would stop the inflammation and our body responding to the negative. And so God, we ask for your restoration right now, Lord. You would touch your daughter, Selah. Thank you for her faith. God, it's just really incredible. And so God, we just thank you in advance for what you're going to do in your daughter.
is alive.
So all the way from the top of her neck, all the way down her spine, all the way down into her toe.
Your name will not be overcome, no longer Santa God. Oh, your name is alive. Have the shadows cast tonight. Your name will not be overcome. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Your name is alive. Forever lifted high. Your name will not be overcome. Yours is
Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence me. You're coming to the hopeless, the homeless, the broken, the tired. You're coming to the orphan, the widow. You're coming to the broken child. You're coming to the man who's abandoned and the woman all alone. You're coming to the sick and diseased and the broken ones. Oh God, you're coming like a river over dry bones in the darkness in the night. You're coming to the nightmare, bringing you there, bringing everything alright. Oh, coming to the hopeless and the dying and the dead and the disease. You're coming to a hopeless heart like me. You're coming to a hopeless heart like me. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Amen. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Let it be now. Let it be now, right now, here and now, in the here and now. I want the real thing. It's all I really want anyway. I want the real thing. It's all we really want anyway. We want the real thing. It's all we really want anyway. We want the real thing. It's all we really want. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Amen. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Amen. Let the power come down. 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 Let the bring it all to peace. Storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name, still call the sea to still, rage in me to still. At your name, there's a shifting going on. There's new days ahead. These strap-ons will live. These strap-ons will live. Oh, and yours is the kingdom. Yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. Amen. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the power. Yours is the glory forever. What if we really believe it? What if we really believe it? What if we step out? Anything can happen, anything can happen, anything. You're not a disappointing fantasy, God. What if we've been waiting and 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 waiting for the spirit moment? What if we've been waiting for this moment? What if everything changes here? Is the power, yours is the glory forever. Amen. Oh, and yours is the kingdom, yours is the power, yours is the glory forever. Amen. Everything changes.
is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. All will see how great is our God. You're the name above every other name. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing how great is our God. No limitations, no limitations, no limitations. Oh, you're the name above. You are worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing how great is our God. Oh, clothes himself in light, he clothes himself in light. Darkness tries to hide, darkness tries to hide. It trembles at his voice, trembles at his voice. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. Oh, see how great is our God. How great is our God. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art. How great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior Lord, to thee. How great thou art. My soul, my Savior, to how great thou art. I exalt thee. I exalt thee. I exalt thee. Oh, no, I sing, no, I sing. I exalt thee. No ears heard, no ears heard. I exalt thee. Oh, I exalt thee. For thou, O Lord, art high above all the earth. Thou art exalted forever. Oh God. For thou, O Lord, art high above all the earth. Thou art exalted forever. Oh God. I exalt God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. He loves me so. He loves me so. He loves me so. He's so good to me. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. He loves me so. He loves me so. He loves me so. He's so good to me. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. He loves me so. He loves me so. He loves me so. So. He loves me so. He's so good to me. Let's just sing that melody as we close out this morning. Oh, soak in the goodness. One more time, soak it in. Yeah. Yeah, soak it in, soak it in. He's so good to me.
That was good.